We go now from one debt crisis to another here in the Americas. The government of Puerto Rico faces a deadline this Wednesday for payment on its $73 billion public debt. But the governor there says the date is unpayable. The debt is unpayable, and he wants a moratorium. We now go live to San Juan and Rafael Bernabe. He's the spokesperson for the Working People's Party there, and he was a candidate for governor of Puerto Rico in 2012. Thanks so much for joining us. Give us some insight here. What's at stake in this debt crisis there in Puerto Rico?
Well, it has been a very positive development, we think, that the government and the governor have finally accepted that the debt of Puerto Rico is unpayable. For more than 2 years, we have been arguing that the debt of Puerto Rico cannot be paid. In order to pay it, you would have to inflict terrible sacrifices on the Puerto Rican people. Paying it makes it unable, the government unable to finance the stimulus necessary to recuperate the Puerto Rican economy, which is necessary to pay the debt. And at the moment of being unable to pay, the moment of default was going to come at one point or another. It's still a matter of concern that the government is speaking of seeking a voluntary moratorium from the creditors. It seems that it's very unlikely that they would be willing to grant that. And we think that the government has to make a decision regarding the payments and be willing to declare a unilateral moratorium, that is to say, not pay what's due on the debt in the next few days or the next few months. That is the only alternative, and something that would necessarily provoke negotiations with the creditors on how to renegotiate the Puerto Rican debt. At the same time that the governor has announced that the debt is unpayable, Ann Kruger and several other advisors of the Puerto Rican government, she's a former officer of the IMF, have published a report making recommendations to the Puerto Rican government, which are all basically very harsh austerity measures against working people, such as eliminating the minimum wage, eliminating the minimum wage for young people, eliminating paid vacations, eliminating what we call the Christmas bonus in Puerto Rico, and so on and so forth. Many conquests of the working class. The typical austerity program that the IMF has imposed on many countries around the world, which have only aggravated the situation of economic depression that we are suffering. So we think that working people in Puerto Rico should reject the recommendations of the Kruger report and should demand a true negotiation of our debt. It is a step forward, as I said, that the government has finally accepted that this debt cannot be paid in the terms that it was contracted to begin with a few years ago.
And really quickly, if you could, Rafael, a lot of people internationally were watching these two debt crises, one in Greece and now we're seeing this one in Puerto Rico, and plenty of people are drawing plenty of parallels between those two situations. How far really, in your opinion, do those similarities reach?
Well, there are some similarities in terms of in both countries you have economies that have not been growing for many years. The Puerto Rican economy has not grown during the last 10 years. It has, in fact, decreased its gross national product over those years. And at the same time, the government has run up a very high debt as a result of this economic downturn. And the government has, at the same time, imposed austerity measures, which have only deepened the crisis. So you find yourself after 10 years of austerity and 10 years of economic depression with an even higher debt that you had to begin with. In those terms, the situation is similar. In other terms, it's very different because Puerto Rico, as you know, is not a sovereign country. Therefore, it has much more limited options than an independent country has in terms of dealing with these questions. It should be. I should point out that the debt, the crisis of the debt, is let us say, the symptom of a much deeper structural problems with the Puerto Rican economy. That is, the problem of Puerto Rico cannot be reduced in any way to the debt problem. It goes much farther than that.
All right, Rafael Bernabe with the Working People's Party there in Puerto Rico. Thanks so much for joining us this midday.